Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Go With Your Gut podcast. I am your host, Lauren Dreyer, and today we are talking about anger because it seems like so many people, no matter what it's for, we're angry about a lot of things, whether it be, I don't know, social, whether it be the way the world is today, um, friends, family, whatever the case that may be. Maybe it's work. I feel like we all get angry at something, and nobody likes to feel angry. It's not a fun emotion to deal with, but yet it's something that we all still have to deal with. But a lot of us maybe push it down or tell ourselves that we want to be so super positive that feeling angry is not good. It's not right. I shouldn't feel angry. And I want to kind of dive into this a little bit because that's not really been my experience. I have absolutely been one to say, I don't want to be angry because I'm going to look at the bright side. I'm going to put a positive spin on it, and I'm not going to do that. What ends up happening for me is I never truly let go of that anger. And maybe you have something from years back that you're still holding on to. And every time something triggers you or a situation happens, whatever the case may be, and all of a sudden that boils up in you again. So, how do we deal with anger? Because I have a couple of different recent scenarios that I wanted to talk about. And they all, I feel like, deal with different things or different aspects. So last week, maybe a couple weeks ago now, something happened at work, and one of my coworkers was who he's always very positive and he always looks at the brighter side. But we were talking about something and he was expressing his frustration and anger with these things. And I agreed with him and I said, "Yeah, I'm angry, I'm frustrated too." And he proceeded to say, "Well, I don't I don't want to be angry. I'm going to be positive, but it's really hard to be positive about it right now." And he goes, "I try to be such a positive person." And I said, "Hang on a second. Just because you try to be a positive person doesn't mean you don't get angry. It doesn't mean you can't get frustrated. It means that something happened that made you angry, and I don't know, you're human." So we talked a little bit about it, and I said, just because you're positive doesn't mean that something happens and you don't get to be frustrated with it. In fact, it seems to me that the more we can notice we're angry, figure out why that is, and not push it down and push it out, dismiss it, whatever the case may be. Why are you feeling angry? Yes, I'm talking about feelings again, but why was he feeling angry? Because, I mean, we can acknowledge it. This is why I'm angry and frustrated. Okay. So, how do we move on from it and allow yourself to be angry for a minute, but figure out how to not stay there? Because when that feeling comes up, it's a reaction from your body to say, I didn't like this. I didn't agree with this somehow. And you have to learn how to deal with that because burying it doesn't do anything but honestly keep your nerves on edge, keep it there and keep it in your body. And then who knows the issues that that leads to. Then last week, something made me really angry. And It was something that I didn't have any control over. It had a drastic effect on me, what I had to do about it, and how my week looked. And I did. I got super angry for longer than I'd like to admit, probably a couple hours or so. But I went for a walk, got myself moving, because that is how my brain has learned to process whatever I need to work through. And movement actually is scientifically proven to help you organize your thoughts. Get out of that space, go do something. So I stood up and said, okay, what about this situation can I control? What about this situation is completely out of my control? And now I have to shift around some things to deal with it. So I did that. I did what I needed to do, and I dealt with it. And then later, I thought, wow, instead of this thing consuming me for the rest of the day, was I unproductive for a few minutes? Yeah. But instead of letting me be unproductive for the rest of the day, I went out, I figured out what I couldn't control, let that go, dealt with what I could control so that I could make plans to figure out how to do what I needed to do for the rest of the week. But I let myself feel that anger. I let it be. I figured out, I knew what it was, and I dealt with it. And then I allowed myself to move on because I could make a plan. I could figure things out. And I knew that that anger was not really worth hanging on to. So, what happens when something happens to us that makes us angry? What happens when we do something to somebody else that makes them angry? And then we have to deal with the blowback. Well, here is my thought on that. People will always do things to make us feel that anger. Things will always happen, whether we like it or not. And we can choose how we react to that. Do we always react the way that we should? No. But the more you put that practice in place, you can figure out how to react or catch yourself and then figure out how to move forward. And then move past, because regardless if that person meant to or not, you can decide what to do with that information, whether you need to distance yourself, whether whatever needs to happen with that. But you can't make that not happen anymore once it's already happened. So how do you deal with that? That's the first step. Now, when you do something to somebody else that makes them angry, whether you mean to or not, first, and this is kind of a hard one, is it seems like when we do something to make people angry, we want to say, oh, I'm so sorry, and have them automatically just be like, oh, it's okay. That's not always how it works. We can't control or tell somebody else how to feel. They shouldn't be able to tell us how to feel. We can't tell them that, boom, we said we're sorry, and all of a sudden we're not angry. That's not how it works, depending on especially what the situation and how big it was. So if you do something to somebody and they're angry, then the best thing I have found is to let them be. Everybody deals with it on their own, and we can't do anything about that. So when somebody else is mad at you, you need we have to find a way to let them be mad and come out of it on our own, because if somebody comes up to me when I'm angry and they try to just tell me that I should blow it off, it makes it worse. Sometimes people just want to be mad for a little bit because maybe they don't know how to deal with that anger. Maybe they don't want to deal with it. And who knows what the case may be. But depending on the situation, they need time to be able to deal with that on their own, how they need to deal with it. Sometimes it takes longer than others, but we have to let them deal with it and trust that when they're ready, things will work out how they work out. I have always been a very anxious person. I didn't realize how anxious until recently, and I have been working on that. So when you have anxiety, it makes it drastically worse because all of a sudden you're replaying everything in your head of what happened, how it went. And I have to tell myself, whatever happened has already happened. How do we want to move forward? I need to give whoever space. People need to give me space and do something else to distract yourself, do other activities the best you can. Because sitting there and stewing in it, being worried about how they're going to react, doing all those things doesn't help you. And all it does is make you crazy and, um, I don't know, make you feel like even more crap. So think about it this way. What's done is done and in the past. So find things to distract, whether that means talking about it to somebody, whether that means doing what you need to do to release that anxiety. Find a way to do that and do as much as you can to help the situation in a different way. Show that person how much you love them by doing something else that they need done. I don't know. But stewing in it is not going to help anybody, especially you. So, how do you move forward? Well, know that, like I said, it is already done. So, when it's time, it'll work out. Find a way to help yourself know that it's going to hopefully work out for the best, whether you like what that looks like or not. We sometimes tend to be like, okay, this needs to work out like this, and you know exactly how you want it to go. Does that always happen? No, because regardless of what happened, you and said other people deal with things differently. So it may not work out as fast or like you want. But you have to allow that to happen and realize that sometimes the way that it needs to work out is for the best, but it's not always what we were picturing. So, anger, yes, it is something that we all feel, something that we all have to figure out how to feel, how to process, how to deal with it. And everybody does that on their own. We have to accept that and honestly figure out when we need to let it go. Whether we need to forgive ourselves for something, whether we need to forgive somebody else for something, think about if it was their fault. Think about how long ago it was and if it still matters. Or are you holding on to something that is just hurting everybody for no reason? Think about all those things and do what you need to do to fix them because it'll be better for everybody. And as I always say, go with your gut, do what you need to do, and then keep on going.